consider a very important topic in biology called tissue and the supporting system. I repeat, tissues and supporting system. First of all, I want to bring down an outline of what we are going to look into. We shall consider this topic in 5 important subheadings. 1. We are going to look at the definition of tissues and then definition of skeleton. Secondly, we'll talk about the forms of skeleton that we have. And then afterward, we'll talk about the difference between bones and the cartilage. Then we'll talk about the types of skeleton. We're going to talk about the types of skeleton. And finally, we are going to talk about the functions of skeleton in the body. Just listen. I hope you are there with your pen and your paper, and then you must be jotting down something. Now, let's go. What is a tissue? First of all, we have been told that there are 4 organizations of life. 1, cell. 2, tissues. 3, organs. And 4, system. But we're not going to talk about cell today. We are talking about the tissues. We know that the cell is the smallest functional unit of life in every organism. That is all about cell. But today, we want to talk about tissues and how they are a supporting system in the body. So what is tissue? Tissue is simply a group of cells. Remember, I've told you about cells, functional unit of life, that is the smallest functional unit of life. And a tissue are a group of cells that are similar in their makeup. Group of cells, similar cells. These cells are similar and they have similar function. Yes, they have the same function. Their shapes and everything are the same. They have, in fact, just like you would come into a classroom, and in the classroom, most of them are girls. You can group all the girls together. They are similar in their gender. In fact, the whole body makeup of all the girls are the same. So because they are the same, you can group them together. While you come to the boys, all of them that are males having the same body makeup, you group them together. Now, among those girls also, the females you've grouped together, most of them are plumpy and most of them are lean. So you can as well group the lean ones together and group the plumpy ones together. I hope you are following. Now, what are we talking about tissues? We say that tissues are a group of cells, similar cells, that perform similar function in the body. If they don't perform similar functions, they cannot be grouped together to form a tissue. I hope you are getting it. Now, when we are talking about supporting system, in the body of every living thing, there must be something that is supporting it. And that thing that is supporting it makes it to be able to stand firm, makes it to be able to be firm. And that is what will now bring us into considering a subheading called skeleton. What is skeleton? Very simple. Skeleton is simply the framework of the body. A very clear illustration to what a skeleton is as you are listening to me there, you are in a room, and that room has a door, and that door has a frame. There is a frame that was, first of all, put on the wall and was chalked and was plastered to the wall. And then that thing is going to serve as a support when you bring the door, and then you bring your door latch, or let me say you bring your hinges. When you bring the hinges and then you fix the door to the frame, and now it is not the door that is standing by itself, it is the frame of that door that is holding the door. So in other words, we can say that for human being to exist, the human being is just like the door, and the skeleton is now the frame, and it is the frame that is supporting the door. The frame is supporting the body of that human being. That is why we say that a skeleton is the framework of the body. I know you must be having some questions with you. Just be penning them down, and then we'll be able to analyze it later. Now we're going to talk about the forms of skeleton. That is taking us into the second subtopic, the forms of skeleton. We have different forms of skeleton, majorly 3 in number. Number 1, we're going to talk about the chitins. C-H-I-T-I-N, chitins. And the chitins, we say that they are found, these are the kind of skeleton that is found in arthropods. When I mean arthropods, I mean all the animals that have segmented body. Segmented body meaning their body are divided into segments. Yes, when I mean they are divided, examples are ants, examples are millipedes, examples are centipedes, example is cockroach, and even some of the crustaceans can fall under this form of skeleton. Now, what do I mean by having a segmented body? If you look at a millipede, for instance, take a good look at a millipede. Take a close look at it. You see that the body is divided into segments. Yes, body divisions. And each of these segments have pairs of legs or pairs of jointed legs in each segment. You just take a close look at it. I know as a science student, you should not be getting irritated about touching a millipede. Now, let's move away from millipede. Let's come to ant. If you look at an ant has a divided body. The body is segmented into the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. The ant has the head. If you move down from the head to the neck, you see there is another bridge. And from that bridge, the chest now came up, which is the chest region. And that chest region is called the thoracic. Is the what? Thoracic. And when you move down from the thoracic, that is the chest region, you now begin to see the abdomen. If you don't call it abdomen, you can call it stomach. Now, that is what I mean by segmented body. So arthropods are all the organisms that have segmented bodies. All the animals having divided body segments. Now, I have given you examples, and I also said that you can find them in most of the crustaceans. Yes, most of the crustaceans, organisms under crustaceans, they have segmented body. When I mean crustaceans, I mean some of the organisms like crab. In my language, we call it inshikom. That is crab. And then another type of a crustacean is crayfish. Yes, crayfish is an example of a crustacean. If you take a close look at them, if you cannot go to the river, go and buy one from the market. And then you take a close look at it, you see that it is divided into head, the chest region called thoracic, and the stomach region called abdomen. That is all about chitins. These are the organisms that have this kind of skeleton called chitins. Now, sorry, not a skeleton, the form of tissues called chitins or even skeleton. Now, we go to cartilage. Yes, cartilage is a supporting tissue. It is very soft in nature. Not only being soft, it is cartilaginous. It is flexible. It can help the body to bend from one place to another. That is cartilage. Now, a layman can call it brisket bone. That one you call biscuit bone. Brisket bone. That is what a layman can call cartilage. And this cartilage is found in the skeleton of complex vertebrates. What are vertebrates? Let me branch. Vertebrates are also called animals, organisms with backbone. Animals with backbone. You that are listening to me, you are one of them. If you look at your back, you discover that you have a bone there. A bone running from your neck to the tail. That means you are a vertebrate. And because you are a vertebrate, so you have backbone. And since you have a backbone, then there must be cartilage in your supporting system, in your tissue. There should be cartilage in your skeleton. So that is why we say cartilage is found in complex vertebrates like human beings, like the goats, like the sheep, like the cow. You don't find backbone in the fowl. Fowls are not vertebrates. Now, it is soft. It is the soft end of the bone. When you are eating a bone, at the tail end of it, there are some soft area that in fact, even as a baby that has not developed all the teeth can chew it because it is very soft. Sometimes they are white. Sometimes you see them yellow. Sometimes you see them being brown in color. So they are very, very soft. And that is the cartilage we are talking about. It is also, I have told you, it is also called a brisket bone. What is the function of this brisket bone? What is the function of this cartilage? The cartilage is not there for a being's sake. The cartilage is there to give, well, how do I put it? It's going to stay there as a shock absorber. How can it be? For instance, if you bring two iron together and let them rub against each other, you see that friction will take place. You know what I mean by friction? A force that acts between two objects that are enmeshed. Between two objects that are enmeshed, that are rubbing against each other. That is what we talk about friction. And now we say that the brisket bone helps to reduce friction, helps to absorb shock. That shock is called friction. It helps to absorb shock and reduce friction in between bones during movement. You will agree with me that when you are walking along the road, there is an extension and flexion movement going on in your body, in the bones of the leg. Even as I am here now talking to you, look at my hand. If you look at this place, there is a joint. And it is this joint that helps me to extend my hand and then flex my hand. If there is no cartilage in this joint, then there is going to be friction. And that friction is going to make me, I cannot flex my hand and I cannot extend my hand and I cannot flex it. I believe you have some questions. Please pen them down and use the comment section to give me the questions and then I will attend to them later. I've told you that the brisket bone or the cartilage is there as a shock absorber, or it is there to reduce friction in the body during movement due to its flexible nature. Now, we say that brisket bone or this cartilage is predominant in mammals and cartilaginous fishes. Yes, you that are listening to me, you are an example of a mammal. The goat is another example of a mammal. The sheep is another example of a mammal. Rat is a small mammal. So rat has a cartilage in their bone. And then we also talk about cartilaginous fishes. Cartilaginous fishes like the shark. The cartilaginous fishes like the shark. This is what we'll have to talk about cartilage. Now, this cartilage we are talking about, there are different kinds of cartilage. One will have the hyaline cartilage, Hyaline, Hyaline, hyaline cartilage. And this hyaline cartilage is found on the surface of movable joints to serve as a lubricant. Lubricants reduces friction. Yes, lubricants reduces friction. And because lubricants reduces friction, therefore hyaline is like a lubricant that reduces friction in the joints. Even on the neck, we have a joint on the neck which is called the pivot joint. We have the joint on the hand, on the arm. It's a movable joint. It allows free movement. Now you can also find hyaline cartilage in the trachea tube. You can find it in the trachea tube. You can find it in the bronchi. The trachea tube located on the neck region of every organism, every vertebrate. It is located here. And what is it there? It helps for easy respiration. It helps for easy respiration. And it is also found on the protruding part of the nose. Look at the nose. The protruding part of the nose. Look at here. At this center, this is protruding, the place that is swelling up. It is the protruding part of the nose. There is a cartilage there, very soft bone. If you can touch it, you discover that the bone here is different from the bone on your head. The bone on your head is strict, is very rigid and strong. But what you see here is not a bone. It is a cartilage. It is giving the nose a shape. It is supporting the nose. So that is called a cartilage. There is, when you open this place, there is a cartilage that is there. It is called hyaline cartilage. It helps for lubricating that place. Now another form of skeleton, another form of cartilage we are going to talk about is the white. We'll talk about the white fibrous cartilage. The white fibrous cartilage. It is found in intervertebral disc of the vertebral column. When I talk about vertebral column, I mean the backbone. Now you discover that in the backbone, you discover that inside the backbone has different kinds of bones. We are going to come to that when we talk about the supporting system in the skeleton. When we come to talk about the bones of the back of the different kinds of bone in the skeleton. Now we are talking about vertebral column and the vertebral disc. There is a bone on the neck, and that bone is called the cervical vertebra. And that cervical vertebra, there are 7 in number. And these 7 bones on the neck, they are attached to each other. One is here, the other one is attached here, the other one is attached here, the other one is attached here. Now, the point of their attachment is the disc. And there is a cartilage that is holding each of those bones side by side. Now that kind of bone is what is called white fibrous cartilage. White fibrous cartilage found in the intervertebral disc of the vertebral column. It helps in the bending of the back. For you to bend your back, it means that this white fibrous cartilage is working. That is why you are able to bend. Remember, I told you that cartilage reduces friction. If there is no cartilage on this back, then friction will occur. When you want to bend, it will cease. It will hold it, and you can no longer bend. But because there is cartilage at the back, then you are able to bend your back and pick something from the floor. Now we go to the last kind of cartilage. The widest kind of cartilage is the yellow elastic cartilage. Yellow elastic cartilage. And this yellow elastic cartilage is found in the external ear. Look at the ear. This is the external ear. Remember, we have three kinds of ear. The external ear, the middle ear, and the inner ear. The inner ear is made up of the cochlea. The cochlea that helps you. The cochlea that helps you to hear. When the sound enters into your ear, and the cochlea will transfer it into through the acoustic nerve, it will transfer it into the cerebrum of the brain. That is in the inner ear. We have the middle ear, which is made up of the tympanic membrane, or what we call the eardrum, and the ear ossicles. And then we have the external ear, which is made up of the pinna. That is this one you can touch here. They are called the pinna. They are called the pinna. And the kind of cartilage you have here, when you open this place, if you use something like scissors and cut off your ear, I know you cannot do that. But assuming you can do such a thing, you discover that there is a cartilage there, yellow in color. So it is the yellow elastic cartilage found in the external ear and the epiglottis. What is the epiglottis? The epiglottis is located inside the mouth towards the throat. And that epiglottis is just like a cartilaginous flap. And that flap is covering the trachea. Remember, the trachea tube helps you in respiration. Respiration we are talking about here is breathing in and out, which is inhalation and exhalation. And this trachea tube, when you want to swallow something, the trachea tube has to close up. Yes. That is why if you are drinking water and you are at the same time breathing, the water will pass into the trachea to the place of, that is when we talk about the pharynx and the larynx. Larynx helps to transfer water into the body through the throat, while the pharynx does not transfer water. Now, when you are breathing and water or food is coming in, then it is going to choke you. I hope you understand what I am saying. So, there is a flap that is covering the trachea to prevent, to bring a contrast between a respiration and swallowing. And that thing that is there helps in the swallowing of food. That cartilage there helps the throat to contrast and relax, so that food can enter from the throat. When you are swallowing food, if you look at your throat, it will be as if there is a process that is pressing down, a force pressing down the food down into your stomach from the throat there. And that process is called peristalsis. Peristalsis is a process where a force, a pressure, presses down food and water and any other thing from through the throat into the stomach. That is a peristaltic movement. It's a type of movement. And the only thing that can help, that can make sure that movement takes place, is this cartilage. Remember, I have told you, skeleton helps movement. And that kind of movement on the throat is called peristalsis. And the kind of skeleton that helps that movement to take place is the yellow elastic cartilage. You see that cartilage helps movement. Now let us go to the bones. Remember, I told you there are different forms of skeletons. One, the chitins, which is found in the arthropods, animals, organisms that have segmented bodies. I have talked about cartilage, which is by a layman called the biscuit bone. Now, we are going to talk about the bone proper. The bone is the major component of the skeletal system. Yes, we have seen cartilage. With cartilage alone, you cannot stand. Now, can you take a consideration if your body, the whole body, is protected by something that is as soft as your nose? You believe with me, you cannot sit. You cannot stand. You cannot carry something. You cannot lift a load because the thing is very soft and the load could be heavier than the thing. And so it cannot stand. So, but bone gives us strength and rigidity of the body. So you see that the bone is the main component, the major component, the very and more important component of the skeletal system. It consists of the osteocytes, O-S-T-E-O-C-Y-T-E, osteocyte. Cyte means cell. And now the osteocyte means living cell in the bone. Living cell in the bone. That is what the bone is made up of. It consists of the osteocytes. It consists of the protein fiber called collagen. Collagen. That is the protein fiber. And it consists of minerals such as calcium carbonate. This calcium makes the bone to be strong. The protein does not make the bone to be strong, but it serves as a component. The osteocytes is because the bone is a tissue, and the tissues are cells that have the same functions. Yes, they have the same functions. That is why osteocyte has to come in. The different cells, I have told you that cyte means cell, and all those cells that make up a tissue. So that is why this osteocyte has to come here, a living cell in the bone. Now, I now tell you it is made up of minerals such as calcium carbonate and calcium phosphate. Calcium carbonate and calcium phosphate. The minerals make up the 2/3 of the mass of bone. If the mass of bone are 3 in number, remember we have mentioned the osteocyte, we have mentioned the protein fiber, which is the collagen, and we have mentioned the calcium or mineral component of the bone. Now, only the mineral part of the bone is 2/3, which is 2/3 of the whole component of the bone. And this is why the bone is strong and rigid. Without minerals like calcium, the bone cannot be strong. It cannot be strong. Something like the cartilage does not have a great amount of, it doesn't have a great amount of the calcium. That is why it is soft. But bone has a great amount of calcium. That is why it is very strong and rigid. Now, the skeleton of the young vertebrate embryo. Remember, embryo is when the organism is forming from the egg. Now, the bone, that is when the organism is still in the womb forming. and the skeleton of that young vertebrate in the womb forming, or in the womb forming, let's say, take for instance human being, it is made up of a cartilage because the baby in the womb has not developed a strong bone. So the body of that, the bone of that, or let's say the skeleton of that young embryo in the womb is made up of cartilage, very, very soft. Very, very soft. As the embryo grows, the osteocyte, which is the bone cell, will begin to replace the cartilage. The cartilage will begin to disappear gradually, and the bone cell will begin to replace it. And when the bone cell is fully built, when the bone cell is fully developed, then it develops into a bone. That is why we say that as the embryo grows, the osteocyte, which is the bone cell, replaces the cartilage or the cartilage cells, and the cartilage tissues become hardened. The cartilage tissue becomes hard, and when it has become hard, the bone is formed. You see the difference? So you see now that when the embryo in the womb is developing, initially it has cartilage, but as the thing is developing and growing, the osteocyte, which is the bone cell, will begin to replace the cartilage cell. And as it keeps replacing the cartilage cell, now the cartilage tissue becomes hardened, and then it becomes a bone. That cartilage that becomes hard now changes to a bone. And this process is called ossification. I repeat, the process is called what? Ossification. They can ask you in the exam, what is ossification? Ossification is just a process where the osteocyte, which is the bone cell, replaces the cartilage cell to form a hardened cartilage, which is now a bone. That is ossification. O-S-S-I-F-I-C-A-T-I-O-N. Ossification. Now, I want us to take a glance at the difference between a bone and a cartilage. From what I have spoken, you can agree with me that yes, there is a big difference between a bone and a cartilage. Let's consider those differences. Number one, the bone produces red blood cell and white blood cell. Yes. Where is it formed? The red blood cell is formed in the longest bone in the body, which is the femur. That is the bone of the laps, the bone of the upper leg, and the bone of the upper arm. That is where the red blood cell is formed. But the cartilage does not form any blood. Yes. Cartilage does not form any blood cell. It doesn't. Now, secondly, the bone is strong and rigid, but the cartilage is very soft. It is soft. The bone is rigid and strong, but the cartilage is soft. You see the difference between both of them. The bone is composed mainly of minerals. I have told you that because of the presence of calcium carbonate and calcium phosphate that makes the bone to be strong and rigid, but those calcium or those minerals are not present in the cartilage. Therefore, cartilage is soft. So, bone, I've told you one, the bone produces red blood cell and white blood cell, while cartilage does not. The bone is rigid or strong, while cartilage is soft. The bone is composed mainly of minerals, while cartilage is not composed of minerals like calcium and calcium carbonate and calcium phosphate. Now the bone cannot grow into cartilage, just like I told you that the cartilage of an embryo, when the embryo begins to grow, the osteocyte, which is the bone cell, begins to replace the cartilage cell until the cartilage tissue becomes strong and changes to a bone. But the bone cannot turn back, cannot go back to become a cartilage. It's not possible. If it is in growth, we can say it is irreversible growth. It cannot reverse. It has changed from cartilage to bone, but it cannot change from bone to cartilage. That is another difference. Another difference is that the bone in young ones, the bones in young ones are flexible. Bones are flexible only in the young ones. But cartilage is flexible both in young ones and adults. For instance, look at me. The bone on the skeleton on my nose is flexible, even though as I am an adult. The same way, the bone in the baby is also flexible. I mean, the cartilage in the baby is also flexible. Therefore, we now discover that bone is flexible only in the young ones, while cartilage is flexible in both young ones and adults. I hope you have seen the difference. Now, let's go proper to the types of skeleton. The other ones are the forms of skeleton. But now we go to the types of skeletons. We have the hydrostatic skeleton. Hydrostatic skeleton. We have exoskeleton. And we have endoskeleton. We are going to take them one after another. Let's go with hydrostatic skeleton. What is hydrostatic skeleton? Just like the name implies, hydro and static. When we talk about static, we are talking about movement. Static means movement that can be progressional, or retarded. Now, hydro, when we are talking about hydro, we are talking about water or fluid or anything that is liquid. That thing is hydro. Now, if hydro means water and static means movement, now join them together. Hydrostatic means the kind of skeleton that is liquid in nature that helps movement. The kind of skeleton that is liquid in nature or in a fluid form and helps movement. We find this kind of skeleton in organisms like soft-bodied animals. Animals that have soft body. Soft-bodied animals like earthworm. If you look at earthworm does not have a bone. Earthworm does not have a cartilage. Earthworm has something. Remember that skeleton helps in movement. Now, the skeleton that is making the earthworm to move is in a liquid form. It is inside the body, but it is in a liquid form. When the earthworm is about to move, the liquid is pushing forward. Go and take a close look at an earthworm. The liquid is pushing forward. As the liquid pushes forward, the earthworm will move forward. And that process is called peristaltic movement. I have told you about it when I was talking about the throat, the movement of food along the epiglottis on the throat. So you see that hydrostatic skeleton are found in the soft-bodied organisms like the earthworm. The sea anemone is another example. They have soft bodies, and so it is that liquid form of skeleton that helps them in their movement. Another thing we're going to consider here is the exoskeleton. The exoskeleton, just like the name implies, external, external, exoskeleton, meaning external skeleton, the type of skeleton found outside the body of the organism, of the animal. It is outside the body, externally. So we say that this form of skeleton is found outside the body of animals, and it is predominant in arthropods. I have told you what arthropods means. Organisms, like when I was talking about chitins as the form of a tissue. When I was talking about chitins. And then this exoskeleton, that is the skeleton located outside, it is predominant, mostly found in arthropods. And this kind of skeleton is secreted by the cell covering the body of that animal, that arthropod. The cell that is covering the body of that arthropod is secreting a skeleton, bringing it out, secreting it from the cell covering the body of that animal. And it supports the animal against gravity, and helps them in movement. For instance, you know force of gravity. Gravity is the force that makes sure that any organism, anything that goes up must surely come down. That is gravity. But because of exoskeleton, take for instance the wings of a cockroach. If the cockroach flies up, it is the wing that makes it to keep flying up against gravity. And that wing is an example of exoskeleton found in the cockroach. And cockroach is an arthropod. All insects are arthropods. It makes them to go against gravity, supports them when they are going against gravity. That is what the exoskeleton can do. And it helps them in movement. You remember that the wing of that insect helps it to move in the air. So you see that the exoskeleton helps in movement and helps to support them against gravity. Another exoskeleton is the leg of the ant, or the leg of the cockroach. Scientifically or biologically, we can call it appendages. The appendages of the cockroach helps it to move, to walk, while the wings helps it to go against gravity. And the elytra, let's say the outer wing of the insect helps it when the gravity is pushing against it, because that chitin, that exoskeleton is strong. It will protect the insect from receiving the impact of the gravity. That is why the exoskeleton is there. Animals with this kind of skeleton, all the animals, all the arthropods, all the animals like snake. Snake is not an arthropod anyway, but it has exoskeleton. Now, all the animals with exoskeleton, what they do is from time to time, periodically they will shed the old exoskeleton. They will remove it. They will shed it off. And when they shed it off, they will grow quickly. That time they have shedded the exoskeleton off. Now the new one that is coming up is very soft because it is just coming out. It is very soft. And because it is very soft, it will that organism, that animal will immediately, quickly begin to grow, add in size. And when it adds in size, then the new exoskeleton will develop. And when it develops, this process is called molting or ecdysis. Molting, M-O-U-L-T-I-N-G, molting, or ecdysis, E-C-D-Y-S-I-S, ecdysis. So what is ecdysis? It is a process where organisms or animals with exoskeleton shed off their old exoskeleton and generate a new one. Please don't forget to put your questions on the comment section, and I will be attending to them in a short while. So what are we talking about? Even human beings have exoskeleton. Yes, human beings have exoskeleton. If you look at your nails, look at it. Your nail is a skeleton giving your finger a shape and protecting there is a delicate part of the finger. If you remove this nail, you discover that there's a delicate part there. So it is the nail that is protecting that delicate part. And from time to time, this nail has to worn out, become old. It will grow old. And when it grows old, if you don't cut it off, sometimes it will fall out by itself and another one will start growing from there. So that is the reason from time to time we cut it off so that the new one can grow out. So we have exoskeleton. The nail is an example of exoskeleton. It gives shape to the finger. It protects the delicate part of the finger. We have another exoskeleton on our head. The hair on the head and the hair on our skin is another example of exoskeleton. So, you know that from time to time, some hairs tend to fall out. Yes, most of the hairs on our body, they have to fall out so that new hairs will grow. Go out there and shave off your hair. Within a short while, within 1 week, it will start growing again. Shave off the hairs on your beards for males. Within a short while, the hairs will start developing again. That is example of exoskeleton. But in arthropods, the process through which they will shed off their exoskeleton that is old and bring in new ones, generate new ones, is called molting or ecdysis. Don't forget to put down your question on the comment section. Now, the bones are joined together. Okay, sorry, we're going to talk about the endoskeleton. Endoskeleton. Just like the name implies, endo, inside, meaning the kind of skeleton that is located inside the body. That is endoskeleton. It is found inside the body, mostly in all vertebrates. Vertebrates, I remind you again, all the animals with backbone. So the endoskeleton is mostly found in vertebrates. And this endoskeleton of vertebrates is composed mainly of bones, not of cartilage, not of chitins. It is composed mainly of bones, and the bones grow simultaneously. The bones grow simultaneously with the animal. What does it mean? As, for instance, a baby has developed a bone. As the baby is growing, the bones are growing. It is not like the exoskeleton, which if the organism wants to grow, it will remove the old exoskeleton and then will develop in size. And then after growing in size, then the new exoskeleton will come up. It does not grow simultaneously. Simultaneously means as this one is growing, this one is also growing at the same time. Not one will stop and then the other one will grow before the other one will stop. No. Simultaneously. Remember in simultaneous equation in mathematics, as you are solving for x, you are solving for y. That is simultaneous equation, where you are solving for two variables, x and y, together at the same time. So what we mean that the bones in endoskeleton, they grow simultaneously with the animal. Somebody can ask you, what is the difference between the growth of the bone in exoskeleton, the difference between the exoskeleton and the endoskeleton? The difference is just that in exoskeleton, the animal does not grow simultaneously with the exoskeleton, but endoskeleton grows simultaneously with the animal. And we say that the endoskeleton is composed of bones. And as the animal is growing, the bone is at the same time growing simultaneously, side by side, at the same time. So that is what we talk about. It grows with the animal. Therefore, there is no need for molting and egg disease. In the exoskeleton, there is need for egg disease because one growth has to stop so that another growth will come in. So egg disease and molting has to take place so that the organism will shed off the old body and then will grow, and then before the new body will start growing. But in endoskeleton, there is no need for egg disease and molting because as the organism is growing, as the animal is growing, the bone is at the same time growing. That is what we are talking about. Now the bones are joined together in this endoskeleton. The bones are joined together as movable joints. Remember that a joint is a place. It is a point where two bones meet. If it is in mathematics, we call it an angle. That an angle is a point where two lines meet together. Now, in the bones or in the skeleton, the point where two bones meet is called a joint. And for the joint to form, something has to bring it together. For instance, if this is a cell phone, this is a cell phone. If I want to join this pen to this cell phone, I need to go and bring an adhesive, something like gum or a glue, and then I will rub it on this surface and take this pen and attach it there. The thing that is helping to join these two objects together is the glue, or what is called adhesive. In the same way, for there to be joints, bones meeting together to form a joint, something is there as an adhesive. Something is there as a glue to join them together. And that thing that joins bones together is called the ligament. It's called the ligament. 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 Ligament is a tissue that joins two bones together in the body to allow free movement. The reason for joints is to allow a free movement. At the same time, the muscles of the body are also attached to the bone so that your body can have a posture and shape. And it can also allow movement because when you want to move, for instance, look at my hand. It is at a 180 degree, which is straight line. If I want to move it up, let me say I want to flex this hand. Just watch. As I am moving it up, there is a muscle here that is relaxing. There is a muscle here that is stretching. As the muscle is stretching, the muscle here is drawing my hand up. Therefore, there is a muscle that needs to attach to a bone so that when movement is taking place, the muscle can draw the bone and movement will take place. Now, the same way you used an adhesive to join these two objects, the same way there is also an adhesive that joined the bone and the muscles of the body together. And that adhesive is called tendon. 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 They can ask you in the exam, what is the difference between ligament and the tendon? The difference is very simple. Ligament joins bone to bone, while tendon joins bone to muscle. And the difference, the similarity between them is that both of them allow movement. The ligament is there to allow movement. The tendon is there to allow movement. That is the simple definition or the simple difference. Now, finally, I want us to look into the functions of the skeleton. If this skeleton in our body, what is the function? What is the work of this framework of the body? In a very simple acronym, I would like to give you the only simple way you can remember the function of the skeleton. And I can use that thing as PSMBR. P, S, M, B, and R. And I can use it to make a statement. Please see me before recreation. P, please. S, see. M, me. B, before. R, recreation. Please see me before recreation. That is the simple acronym that will help you to always remember the functions of the skeleton. Now let us analyze them. P stands for protection. P stands for protection. Whenever you want to remember it, you say please. That means please starts with the letter P, and P is protection. So the skeleton helps to protect the body. For instance, if you look at your chest, there is a skeleton, there are bones there, and those bones are protecting the delicate organs of your body. Here you have the liver, here you have the heart, and here you have the lungs. And the skeleton that is here is protecting all of them. So P is protection, meaning the skeleton protects the delicate parts of the body or the delicate organs in the body. S, which is C. S stands for shape and support. Shape and support. Skeleton helps to give the body shape. If there is no skeleton in my body, I will be shapeless. In fact, I will just be like a rope that somebody will drop here and the rope will slump. Because there is no shape and there is no support. For me to be sitting down here and I am talking to you, it is the skeleton that is helping me to be firm and strong. It gives me shape. It gives me support. For me to stretch my hand and it remains like this, there is a bone that is keep holding these muscles, and the muscles are firm and rigid. So the skeleton gives shape and support to the body. The next one is M, which I said me. I've said please, C. The next one is me. M, standing for movement. The skeleton helps the body in movement. If there are no bones in the body that constitute a joint, there will be no movement of the body. Assuming there is no bone here, the ulna and the radius, I will come to that when I'm talking about the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. There is ulna and radius here, and there is femur. Sorry, there is a humerus here. Permit me for that mistake. There is a humerus here, and there is femur, there is ulna and radius here. And this ulna and radius and the humerus, they join here to form a joint. And that is why I can move my hand. I can extend my hand and I can flex my hand. It allows movement in 180 degrees, which is extension and flexion. The same thing for me to bend down. If there is no bone of the vertebral column, I cannot bend down. So it allows the vertebral column, what you can call backbone. It allows movement, which is bending. So you see that a skeleton helps us in bending. Look at me. If you ask me a question and I want to agree to the question, I want to nod my head in agreement, I do this way. I nod my head. If there is no joint or no bone here at the neck region, then my neck cannot nod and my neck cannot rotate. It is because of skeleton that I can rotate my hair, and that is a movement, and I can nod my hair, also a movement. Now, let's go to B, the fourth function. B, letter B. Letter B is blood formation. I have told you earlier that white blood cell and red blood cell are formed in the bone. The white blood cell and red blood cell are formed in the bone. And I told you that they are formed in the longest bones of the body, which are the humerus, which is the bone of the upper arm, and the femur, which is the bone of the upper leg, which is the laps. These are the places where blood is formed in the body. You see that skeleton helps in the formation of blood. And finally, R, recreation, standing for R. R here means internal respiration. Internal respiration. And when I talk about internal respiration, I talk about breathing. And when I talk about breathing, I mean breathing in and breathing out. The bone serves for internal respiration. The skeleton serves for internal respiration. At this juncture, I think I should stop it. And then before I end, I call it a day. I want us to recall that we have considered the following topics. 1. Tissue, definition, and definition of skeleton. Tissue as the group of similar cells that perform similar function in the body. All of them are called tissues. Skeleton is the framework of the body, and I gave you an analogy, an illustration with the door. The door is the body, and the frame that the door is attached to is the skeleton. So the skeleton is the framework of the body. We have talked about the forms of skeleton, which are the chitins, the cartilage, and the bones. We have talked about the difference between the bones and the cartilage. And We have talked about the types of skeleton, the hydrostatic skeleton, the exoskeleton, and the endoskeleton. And finally, we have talked about the functions of the skeletons. Meanwhile, meet me in the WhatsApp group with the phone number that is there so that I can send you a comprehensive note for this lesson for your own personal consumption. Thank you and God bless you. Remember, this is Busy Brain Achievers Academy, a reference point to excellence. We set a pace and others follow. Thank you and God bless you. Remember to refer others to this wonderful lesson and God bless you.